Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 12 of the holiday card series for 2018. Today I'm going to be making a card that as I was starting to make it, I was wondering, does this look familiar? I think it's because I love snowflakes. I've used snowflakes on a ton of cards over the years, and I've done similar ideas where you have like a gradient background with snowflakes on top. In fact, I did one earlier this year in this holiday card series. I can't remember which day it is, but I've done a similar effect. So to make this one a little bit different, I'm going to make it a circle card, and I'm going to be blending with Distress Oxide inks. The stamp set I'm using today is from Pink and Main, and I hope you guys will check it out. And let's get into the card. The stamp set I'm using today is called Flurries, and it's from Pink and Main, and there's lots of fun snowflakes and even some like circle shapes with the snowflake inside. Like I mentioned in the intro, I'm creating a circle card today. So I first picked out some circle dies. These are from Simon Says Stamp. This is the nested circle die set, and I've got a larger circle and a smaller circle. To prep my card base, I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock. This is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I've squared that at 5.5 and folded it in half. And I'm going to put that folded piece of cardstock in my Big Shot machine with the circle die hanging off that folded edge just a tiny bit. It's going to cut everything except right at the fold, and it's going to create a circle card that's all one piece, and I don't have to adhere the two, like the front and back together. It's all going to be together with a fold in the middle. So I'm just going to put that through my Big Shot machine, and I ran this through about 3 or 4 times just because this cardstock is particularly thick, and I've tried it in the past and it does need a little bit more pressure. So going through 2 or 3 times was perfect, and I'm left with a circle card base with just a little hinge on the top. So now I'm going to take the smaller circle and I'm going to cut out another piece of that same cardstock that I'll be doing my actual card design on. So I'm going to do a bunch of ink blending today, and in order to protect my work surface, I'm going to put down the Tonic Easy Clean Matte, and then I'm going to use some Ranger mini round blending tools to blend on some oxide inks. The first color I'm using is Tumbled Glass, and I'm just going to come in from that edge up there at the top. Now you might be wondering what is on her fingertips on her left hand. That is a little strip of Post-it tape. You could use just a little piece of paper, anything like that. That's just to protect my fingertips from getting inky, because as I blend and move all the way to the other side, I'm eventually going to have to use my fingers right on top of ink that is already there. And so I'm just trying to protect my fingertips and make sure I don't spread any of that ink where I don't want it. So I used Tumbled Glass, Mermaid Lagoon, Chipped Sapphire, and then Black Soot just to darken up that blue at the very end of that. So I started to blend in back with that Tumbled Glass and realized that I had black on my work surface. So I cleaned that up real quick and then went back over with Tumbled Glass, and that cleaned up any of that black that had smeared where it shouldn't be. And there's my blended piece all finished. So I'm going to be doing some heat embossing over the top, and I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have any of that semi-dry ink attracting the embossing powder. So I actually let that dry overnight. So this is the next morning. I'm testing it in my white embossing powder, and everything turned out great, so I knew I was safe to go ahead and start stamping. I'm going to take a bunch of the snowflake images and I'm going to arrange them around that greeting. So first I'm putting the greeting on top of this circle, and then I'm going to start placing all of those snowflakes just kind of randomly, puzzle piecing them around that greeting. And I'm going to make sure I get them all in place exactly where I want them. Then I'm going to grab a couple pieces of tape and I'm going to tape down the circle to the grid paper that's inside my MISTI stamp positioning tool. This is because I was sort of anticipating that I might need to stamp these twice just in case I don't get one of the snowflakes pressed down fully. And so I wanted to make sure that that circle die cut wasn't going to move around at all. So I'm going to swing my MISTI door over and pick up all of those stamps. And there we go. And then I'm going to prep that area with an anti-static powder tool. Now you saw me earlier, I did test this out and it seemed to be okay, but just to be safe, I decided to go ahead and apply some of this powder to make sure that the embossing powder doesn't stick to anywhere on this circle. So I had one little stamp that pulled up, so I pushed that back down. And then I inked up all of those stamps, the greeting and the snowflakes, in Versamark ink. I'm going to swing the door of my MISTI back over and stamp down, and I'm making sure that I walk my fingertips over every single one of these snowflakes, making sure I have a lot of pressure, trying to get the best image possible. And for the most part, this worked really, really well, but I did notice that on the snowflake right above the greeting, that the very bottom of the snowflake didn't stamp. So I'm adding a little bit of ink to that right there, and then I pressed that down, and I made sure to put lots of pressure right on that area. And then it was perfect. So now I'm going to apply some embossing powder. The color I'm using today is called Alabaster, and it's from Brutus Monroe. It's just a fine detailed white embossing powder. So I'm holding my die cut with a tweezer for a little bit, and then I kind of transfer to my fingers and dipping it into this container of white embossing powder. Now where I had those little corners of tape holding it down, it did have a little bit of adhesive residue left behind, just enough to make the embossing powder stick, so I used a dry brush to brush that away. Then used my heat tool to heat set all of these snowflakes. You just want to heat them up until the powder melts and becomes more solid and smooth. I then put some foam adhesive on the back of my circle die cut piece that I've blended and stamped, and place that onto the card. Now if you wanted to keep the card like this, you definitely could. I think it looks finished just like this, but I'm going to add a couple of different detail kind of additions to this. I've got some crystal sequins from Darice. This is the 8mm and 5mm size. I'm using my tweezers just to place them onto my card, and then I picked up the sequins with my tweezers and used some Gina K Connect glue to glue these sequins down. The other thing that I'm adding to my card just to finish it off, which is sort of an extra, you don't have to do this, is I'm adding a white dashed line using a Jelly Roll pen. And I'm just going to have it connect from the one side of the snowflake cluster over to the other side, going around the edge of that circle. And I think it just finishes off that and makes it look a little bit more purposeful for keeping that area blank. So that is the card for today, all completely done and finished. I did want to mention I spent 7 minutes blending, and I think it was completely worth it. I love a good circle card. I can't believe I haven't done one in this year's series until now, day 12. So I hope you guys enjoyed that circle card. On screen, I've got 2 more videos for you to check out. As usual, if you've been watching the holiday card series this year, I've got the 2017 and 2016 videos on screen, and if you want to see every single holiday card series video for day 12, those are going to be down in the video description listed below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys on Friday for day 13.